Welcome this week to VRB Outstanding and Vacation Home Mastery. Special guest this week is John Slaughter from Rental Guardian, and we're going to talk about travel insurance, so stay tuned. And welcome back. Here we are with John Slaughter from Rental Guardian. I just want to give a quick intro to John, who's with them. John, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go into some questions about Rental Guardian.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate being here today. And as you said, my name's John. I'm with Rental Guardian. I'm the Senior Vice President of Growth and Strategy for Rental Guardian. Been in the industry of vacation rentals with Rental Guardian for about almost 9 years with Rental Guardian specifically, and deal with primarily offering travel insurance products as well as damage liability type products to vacation rental property managers.
Awesome. And I should have probably clarified, Rental Guardian is for travel insurance. This is not accidental damage protection. This is for the guest to purchase to protect their stay that they're going on with, whether it's through VRBO, Airbnb, or direct booking. And I guess the first question I have, because obviously as of recent, COVID is probably the biggest reason for travel insurance. But how long has Rental Guardian been around? Because obviously it's been around before COVID, right?
Absolutely. We've been around since 2011, I believe, was when our founder, Brady Stump, founded the company. And, you know, it's funny, he told the story recently. He actually started the company because he actually was he owned a real estate company, and he was selling travel insurance, and he noticed that his team members were actually faxing travel insurance documentation, and he thought there had to be a better way. And so he created Rental Guardian, built the technology to be able to create a travel insurance-based API to deliver travel insurance products, and the rest is history. So, you know, he built a better mousetrap, and that mousetrap has been growing and growing, and now we're over 1,300 or more vacation rental property managers using our programs. And this last year has been one of our best years ever. So it's just been a real blessing all the way from the beginnings to where we are today.
Well, awesome. And like I say, you've been around for a dozen years. I guess things changed though when COVID struck, and help shed a light on how maybe things changed. I assume revenues increased after that.
So yeah, I mean, fear of travel became quite a ordeal when COVID hit, right? Travel insurance products, ours included, typically cover sickness. They don't specifically call out COVID, but it's part of a sickness clause that basically covers if you're unable to travel due to doctor's orders, and or if you're just too sick to travel and the doctor said, you know, hey, you can't travel. And COVID was certainly part of that. But then there was also the stigma of COVID. And while vacation rentals saw a dramatic increase as far as the perfect way to social distance with a vacation,
They did.
you know, and that spike happened and hotels were shutting down because you're basically on site with 3,000 of your closest friends. Not a great social distance place to be. Vacation rentals became a great getaway for folks. But what we noticed is that there was still a fear of travel, basically going through an airport if you still could. Of course, you were wearing a mask, but did that really help or not? You know, who knows? So with that, we saw a lot of folks that had COVID that then were told they couldn't travel, so they were able to file a claim and get reimbursed for the cost of that trip that they covered. And then we also found that there was a lot of folks that had fear of travel. And that's where we stand apart a little bit different than other folks out there in the marketplace with our products, which is we offer a cancel for any reason program that basically covers, hey, I just don't want to go. And with that type of coverage in place, we were able to really see a dramatic increase in our business because we kept a cancel for any reason program going throughout the entirety of COVID, where other providers pulled theirs off the shelf if they had it, because it was just getting hammered with claims. We stuck it out, and that was through the goodness of our underwriter Nationwide, who stuck with the program, kept it in place, and we became very popular because of that program as well.
And that's huge. It was funny you talked about the uptick in vacation home rentals during COVID. It's funny, a lot of people called to see if they can cancel, but then they realized, wait a minute, this is better than the alternative, because what are we going to do all summer? And I don't want the alternative of a cruise or a hotel. So absolutely, as an owner, we stepped up the cleaning practices. We try to do a contactless check-in, as we've always done, with doorless key codes and so forth. And again, everyone has this recent memory of COVID, but there's other things. And you mentioned a great thing that Rental Guardian does is cancel for any reason. But I'm sure other people out there, what other things does it cover, that if it's relative death or anything else like that? Anything else you want to share about what it covers?
Yeah, it's really almost like, what doesn't it cover? Because there's so many different reasons that it covers. First and foremost, anybody along the East Coast or the Gulf area, hurricanes. It covers for hurricane situations, basically for weather-related issues with hurricanes. If there's mandatory evacuations, that would be covered under interruptions. There's also delays benefits as well. So if your flights are delayed and you can't get to your vacation because the carriers are canceling because either where you're coming from or where you're going to is having an issue with weather-related issues around a hurricane or tropical storm. So there's so many benefits for things like that. There's also, just recently, even in Hawaii, earthquakes and things of that, not earthquakes, volcanoes and earthquakes and stuff like that. And having, the poor folks on Maui that had that tragic fire in Lahaina, those people that had vacations going to Lahaina, obviously, if they had travel insurance, they were getting reimbursed accordingly. So there's just so many benefits. If you get sick, now you decide sick is COVID, everybody thinks COVID, but it could be appendicitis. It could be something else that comes up that's, we don't really put a list of those types of things together. What we've got is more of a generalized, if you're sick and you can't travel, that could cover any one of a number of things. There's also the ability for, if you and or your family member got sick, or a non-traveling family member got sick. Let's say, for instance,
a parent has a heart attack, right?
Yeah, let's say grandma or grandpa, had a situation, now you can't go. Those are types of things that are covered by travel insurance as well. There's also, if I could go down a list, we actually have one of the more robust versions of travel insurance in the marketplace. Most folks, if you were to go through and count the standard covered reasons in a general fashion, they come in anywhere between 18 to 28 covered reasons. We have over 30. So, those things, like, for instance, if your house got burgled, or if your house, had a fire and now you can't leave because it's unstable, or you can't leave your house, that's a covered reason. One of our reasons is if your dog or cat passed away within 7 days of your trip, that's a covered reason, because most dogs or cats are family members and you're probably pretty broken up about it. So those are the types of thoughtful benefits that are built into this program that run pretty deep. And, it also covers things that happen when you're going through an airport. Let's say you get there and your flight, you're on the plane, you're ready to go, everything's great, but you've only got a 45-minute window to catch your next flight. And they're like, this is the captain speaking, but we've got a mechanical delay. We should be, here shortly, just bear with us. And an hour later, you've already missed your window, so you already know you're going to be delayed. Well, what happens if you have to then spend the night there because that's the last flight going? So there's delay benefits as well. Or if you're actually in a situation where you're on your trip and you get that telephone call where one of your loved ones has passed away and now you've got to depart suddenly, that would be an interruption. There's interruption benefits. Or if you're told, hey, there's a hurricane coming and you have to evacuate your residence where you're staying and you have to depart, that's also an interruption. So there's so many different benefits that, why you would travel without travel insurance, I really don't know, especially when, these trips are sometimes more, sometimes they're longer, and sometimes these trips are booked further in advance because you're trying to get the perfect family destination. And in order to secure it, you've got to book 6, 7, 8 months in advance to be able to get that best place that you want to stay. So knowing that peace of mind in the back of your head is there with a small, percentage of increase to your trip, Seems like a no-brainer to me, but I'm also partial to travel insurance. So
Well, there's a couple of things I want to follow up with that because you made some great points. One thing, I am going to put a link to a list of everything Rental Guardian covers. You have a PDF that has a good information packet on there, so I definitely want to make sure people know that they can click on that and click and view all those different options. But two things you said, we actually did a video on why you should allow dogs because they are members of your family. So great point to make sure that if you're a homeowner to try to allow your dog to be a part of the vacation. We always travel with our dogs, so that's why we're pet friendly, and we have a whole episode as to how to make your house pet friendly.
that's
That,
cool.
but the other thing too you mentioned is hurricanes because we have a couple rentals here in Florida. In fact, behind me is not really where I'm at because we don't have waves in the Florida Keys. Everything's kind of flat, but it does look like this. The water is as blue, except there's no waves. But we have a no cancellation, no refund policy, even with hurricanes. We don't prorate it. And I'm not alone. Many resorts, many vacation home rental management companies have a hurricane policy, and it's given if you're traveling to Florida from June to November to purchase travel insurance because it's hurricane season. You're gonna have to expect that. So those are great points I want everyone to make note of. And we're going to do this in probably about 3 different episodes. But I have a question coming up next. It's probably going to be a real good one. I use owner reservations, owner res, and you're baked in. You're the default travel insurance that's offered, and we offer that to all of our guests. My question to you is, when should travel insurance be offered or discussed? Is there a best time during the sales process, right, when you're going through the booking, to tell the people about it?
That's a great question. When you have these cancellation policies like yours, which is no cancellations, right? You book, you're cemented in. That's a great way to transition to travel insurance to be able to say, look, here's our cancellation clause. And when people understand there's no cancellation, they might be like, oh, but then you say, but we've got a great way for you to be able to protect yourself against things that can occur. And you lead right into travel insurance. So many folks will take bookings over the phone. So being comfortable with the basics of the program, you don't have to sell travel insurance. You just basically have to, maybe tell a relatable story about travel insurance. That's really helpful to folks to understand, like, gosh, you know what? You're coming to a destination that has hurricanes and you're coming in July. There's a good chance you might be impacted either in a straight direct hit, or maybe it's just going to sideswipe you and you're going to just be faced with really bad weather and you're going to have to decide whether you want to come or not. With that cancellation clause you're about to sign, we can protect you against those things. Just purchase cancel for any reason travel insurance. It's only 10.8% more. That'll cost you this, and you have 10 days to look the policy over. So if you don't want to purchase it and you want your money back and you changed your mind, just let us know within the first 10 days and you get your money back. It just is a real smooth way to be able to try and lead the guest to be able to understand the importance of it, but not try and sell them. That's what people always think, I have to sell it. No, you just have to offer it, and don't be afraid of it. Our program is great because we have a fantastic underwriter who is a household name nationwide. Everybody knows the jingle. Everybody's seeing commercials on TV, right? And so with that, if you say, oh, and it's underwritten by Nationwide, people are like, oh, I'm familiar with them. Otherwise, if you say some other providers, they might not be familiar. They have to Google it or whatever the case might be. But Nationwide, they're familiar. So it's just an offering if they're on the phone. Don't be afraid to offer it. And usually do it centered around when you're telling them about the cancellation clause, because that goes hand in hand. In a direct booking, when it's going to be offered, then it's usually at the time they're going to be able to make a payment, when it gets real. When they're about to put a credit card in, you would like to offer that travel insurance by, hey, would you like to protect your trip? That's another great time to do it. And then, of course, there's after the fact, when somebody says, I changed my mind, how do I get it? Well, then you want to make sure that you give them a quick and easy way to get that. And, through the likes of OwnerRes and our other over 1,300 property managers, we give them those tools to be able to do that. So it makes it pretty seamless. But fear of offering it is the biggest drawback, which we try and work with our clients day in and day out to try and get them to be more comfortable just by offering it and not being afraid of it, because it's a great program.
And we'll talk about the other places besides OwnerRez where to get that. But two things I want to mention is, if you've been trained in sales, especially if you're, as many of us have, retail sales, right? The last time you want to offer the extended warranty is at checkout. You always want to talk about that during the sales process. So I remember vividly, look at this computer we have. It's great. I'll show you my age. It's a 46 processor. And the great thing is we offer a 3-year protection plan on it. But you always mention it early in the process, not at the register when you're checking out, because then you're not going to get the sale. So that's an excellent point, is to mention what your policy is for cancellation, and to assure them that if anything were to happen, we offer this if you want. In fact, this morning, I'm totally honest with this, I got a phone call. We did a quote for a couple, because one of our venues is also a wedding venue. And they called up to let us know verbally that they wanted to book with us. And he had asked, I said, I believe you had talked about, or we read through that there was insurance for travel. And I said, absolutely, and I'll get you more information on that. And so they even asked about it. And in our quotes, we put that in there. That is an offering, and it is an optional offering. They don't have to get it. But obviously, and we'll talk about this in the next episode, when the house is on fire, you don't call and ask for fire insurance when the fire trucks are arriving, right? So, John, I appreciate you joining us this week. We have part 2 coming up next week with a bunch of great questions for travel insurance. I want to thank everyone for coming. Remember, hit the like and subscribe. Ask any questions we'll be able to answer in future episodes. And we're going to see you again next week for part 2 with Rental Guardian and travel insurance with our special guest, John Slaughter. Take care.